Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're sort of keeping track of this ongoing news story regarding Surachat Bigjok Hakpan, who is presently the Deputy National Police Chief. There's been a lot of talk that he is on sort of the short list, if you will, to become the next National Police Chief at the retirement of the current National Police Chief, Police General Torsak Sukwimon, who is apparently going to be retiring this coming September. But that said, there is sort of an ongoing investigation into the dealings of Bigjok, having to do with some kind of online gambling operation, and there's an ongoing investigation into this. We've been doing a number of videos on this, mostly because there's data points in it that may be useful for folks out there, especially in the expat community, to gain some insight into just how investigations in Thailand work, the sort of fact-finding functions of the police when making sort of findings of fact, presumably to ultimately want at some point in an adjudication make conclusions of law. But I was reading a recent article from the Thai Examiner, thaiexaminer.com, and as per usual, Thai Examiner they drill down into the real details, and I thought this was an interesting excerpt, and I thought it was worth noting. So the article is titled, "Bigjok's police career on the brink as police chief threatens to suspend the high-profile top cop from job." Under the subheading within that article, "News summons on Sunday came out of the blue," quoting directly, "The serving of the news summons on Sunday came out of the blue." As we discussed in another video, he was served with another sort of summons, if you go back, I think it was August, September of this past year, 2023, where again, they showed up at his house, and I think they woke him up, actually, if I recall the story correctly, and he was kind of flabbergasted by it, and apparently that investigation got taken up by the National Anti-Corruption Commission, but now there's another investigation as to a different sort of fact pattern that now they're undertaking as well. Quoting further, "In short, the incident was quite similar to the mysterious police raid on General Surachat's home in September 2023. Quoting further, "The officers were questioned for 22 minutes. Afterwards, the 2 vehicles and 5 police officers placed the summons on General Surachat's home. However, a senior officer later accepted it had not been served." I want to come back to that. Quoting further, "The residence is located near the police club in the capital where the deputy chief works from." So apparently what's going on here is there was a summons issued to Bigjok. Now, to be clear, as he and his lawyers have pointed out, and I'm making another video contemporaneously with this one where we go into that, but basically that he's only been summoned to basically give evidence in basically an inquiry format, and he has not actually been subjected to an arrest warrant. This is one data point that I think is absolutely, I wouldn't say essential, but I think it's of note for expats here in Thailand. Namely, there is a difference between the police undertaking a fact-finding inquiry here and accusing someone of a given crime, basically charging someone or filing charges on someone. And to be clear, there may be different duties and there may be different responsibilities, and you may have different rights and privileges as a person who is under suspicion, under investigation, depending on the legal posture of what kind of, if you will, legal instrument you're under. And what I mean to say is, are you subject to an arrest warrant? Because a different analysis is going to be undertaken if you're under an arrest warrant as opposed to being under a summons. Now, as I've discussed in many other videos, I am not a Thai attorney. I'm an American attorney of Thai nationality. So I'm looking at this more or less from a comparative law standpoint, and as an outside observer, I'm not going to go ahead and dig in or go into the high weeds with regard to really detailed analysis on the differences in your different rights and duties. Quite honestly, if you have this issue and you have questions about the differences between an inquiry and a summons associated therewith as opposed to an arrest warrant, you're probably going to want to contact a legal professional, because the specific facts in your given case are going to greatly drive the analysis. And again, having Thai legal professionals, obviously they're going to be well versed in Thai law. The point of this video is just to provide some sort of basic educational exposition as to the fact that there is a difference between being summoned, if you will, or summoned, and being subject to an arrest warrant. So that there is a difference there. Again, going into that detail further in another video. But in this video, the big thing that I thought, I want to read this again. However, a senior officer later accepted it had not been served. I am really curious to see if that little factoid there, or factet, if you will, I think Doug Casey out there on the ether of the YouTube calls it factets, not factoids, whatever. That slight, that what is seemingly an almost semantic fact is not semantic at all, because if this was improperly served, again, quoting directly, a senior officer later accepted it had not been served. I don't know exactly what that means, honestly, in terms of the ramifications, because I don't know the context of how that officer was talking or what that officer was talking about specifically, but it stands to reason that if effective service was not provided, then perhaps there may be ramifications, positive, negative, I don't know, neutral, but there could be ramifications for Police General Surachat himself, because he may not be subject to anything if it wasn't properly served. Again, I'm using an outsider's perspective to provide some comparative law insights. Again, my primary expertise comes from the common law tradition, but under any legal proceeding, you know, rules of civil procedure, rules of criminal procedure, generally speaking, dictate that if somebody is not subjected to proper service, they may not then be subjected to the jurisdiction of a court. Again, I'm talking very generally there. I'm not trying to say that's the case here, but the fact that just popped out at me, you know, as somebody who's been in the legal profession for going on 2 decades now. The minute I saw that, well, you know, an officer later accepted it had not been served, that just jumped out at me when I was reading this. So I'll be curious to see how this further plays out, and we will certainly keep people updated on this channel as the situation evolves.